Hey everybody, in today's video, we're going to be talking about why sleep hygiene may not be enough for you to be able to recover your sleep at the level that you want to, and why for business owners especially, sleep hygiene tends to fail. So if you've tried a lot of sleep hygiene stuff, you're a business owner, you're struggling with sleep, then you're in the right place. If you don't know me already, my name's Andrew Ernst. I'm a sleep coach for business owners, and I'm here to help you fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and wake up with more energy. So let's jump in and get started. Okay, now most people are told when they start having sleep problems that they should try the sleep hygiene stuff. And if you don't know what that is, it's things like controlling the bedroom temperature, wearing an eye mask, wearing earplugs, using a white noise machine or a fan or something like that to essentially help yourself sleep better. And these are all great ideas in theory. The issue is that they don't really work for long-term sleep issues. Now, if you have what's called a sleep disturbance, which is very normal. That is simply when something's going on in your life, a business project, a client that's driving you nuts, a big deal on the line, important sales call the next day, whatever it is, that can cause you to not be able to sleep well. The thing is, sleep disturbances will autocorrect after the cause of the sleep disturbance has been handled. And it doesn't take very long. It's just a few days to maybe a week, something like that. But when you have sleep issues that are lingering for years and years and sometimes even decades, sleep hygiene is not going to cut it at that point. And in fact, as we'll see, it can actually make things worse. And this is especially annoying for business owners because we like to look at problems, figure out solutions, apply the solutions and fix the problems and not have to deal with them anymore. The thing is with sleep hygiene, when we apply all these different techniques to sleep and it doesn't work, it actually starts to make us worry that the problem is worse than maybe it actually is. And then we try and look up more solutions. And it creates this loop where we're constantly searching for new solutions, trying new things, they don't work, and then it reinforces that belief that something is wrong. The real truth that's happening, though, is that those solutions are just not the actual solutions that you need. So essentially, you end up in an unending loop of searching and trying and getting nowhere. And then you get emotionally upset about the whole thing, which makes sleeping even harder to do, which I will also explain soon in this video. I was stuck in this trap myself for many years. I got every kind of blue light blocking glasses you can imagine. I got earplugs, I got blackout, I got everything there is to do. And now I've come to a point where I don't rely on any of those things. I may use some of them to increase my comfort level, but I know that they don't actually cause sleep to happen. What causes sleep to happen is our own bodies, and I'm going to explain this whole thing as we move along through the video. So if you're watching this video, I'm sure you've been there. You've probably used sleep trackers, you've probably read everything online, every article, every blog, whatever. And unfortunately, all of this effort into improving our sleep can actually raise our level of anxiety around sleep. And that raised anxiety is actually what will make sleep harder to achieve because our bodies are not able to sleep very well when we have high anxiety going on. And so through this looping of searching for solutions and trying different things and overly prioritizing these different sleep fixes that ultimately don't address the root cause, it actually leads to more sleep problems down the road. And eventually your mind and body might start associating sleep itself or your bed or your bedroom with stress and anxiety. And at that point, just by going in your bedroom, that anxiety is going to raise and it's going to release that cortisol, which creates the opposite of sleepiness. It creates alertness, awareness, and it just makes it very difficult to sleep. So it's a very sinister trap that we find ourselves in, and we don't really understand why we're having more trouble sleeping when it's supposed to be easier to sleep as we're using these sleep hygiene techniques. And oftentimes what it leads to is us laying in bed wondering, hey, I feel tired, my body's tired, but why can't I sleep? I want to sleep. I'm doing all this stuff, but sleep will not happen. And those negative thoughts and those feelings of worry and anxiety and fear, they actually cause a psychological response in the brain known as hyperarousal, which is just a fancy word for strong negative emotions and stressful thoughts and things that trigger our fight or flight response in the brain. Because when the fight or flight response is activated, the brain starts to scan the environment for threats. Okay, this is an ancient mechanism that's designed to keep us safe from danger, that allowed us to survive in the wild for millions of years, right? This hyperarousal, once it's activated, makes it incredibly difficult to sleep. And by trying all these sleep efforts, and constantly wondering, is it going to work? Is the melatonin going to work tonight? Okay, I got my eye mask. Am I sleeping? Is it working? All that focus internally on your sleep will trigger this hyperarousal as well. So it's a compounding effect that happens when we invest too much in sleep hygiene, which is a drag because those things are supposed to help us sleep better. Now, ultimately, once you get to a point where you're sleeping without relying on sleep hygiene stuff, yeah, then you can add it on top and it can improve sleep quality. But that only will work once your baseline of sleep is normalized, which has to do with reducing that hyperarousal. Even you just knowing this now, what I've told you about hyperarousal, can help quite a bit because you'll start to notice, well, maybe I am trying all this stuff and really hoping that it's going to work and wondering and monitoring myself if it is working. Sleep trackers can cause this same issue because we become overly obsessed with, oh, my sleep number. Was it good? Was it bad? What does the watch say? My REM cycles, deep sleep cycles, all this information creates more hyperarousal. So I don't recommend using trackers, and I don't recommend relying on any sleep hygiene stuff to create sleep for you. Only your body can create sleep, and it has to do with the hyperarousal being low and your sleep drive being high, which we'll cover soon. Now, again, as a business owner, you get paid to solve problems, right? But the problem with problem solving in sleep is that it activates hyperarousal. So the very act of problem solving itself can become the problem because sleep is a passive process that happens to us without any conscious effort. The more effort we put into it, the least likely we are to sleep. So now that you kind of understand that paradox of hyperarousal and how trying to help ourselves sleep can actually make things worse, let's get into how sleep drive works so that you can combine reducing hyperarousal with increasing your sleep drive, and this is going to get you where you want to go. So here's 3 simple ways to improve your sleep without using sleep hygiene in a way that is actually sustainable and actually works with your body rather than against it. The first thing you'll want is proper sleep structure. Now, this has to do with the time that you wake up every day and the time that you go to bed every day. Now, I'm not so worried about the time that you go to bed. I prefer you to go to bed when you feel actually sleepy, which is when your eyelids are heavy and your head is nodding forward and you're moving into the first stages of sleep. Okay, that's when you want to be going to bed. And you can set a goal sleep time, but do not rush yourself into bed just because a certain time has arrived until you're actually feeling sleepy. Otherwise, you could end up laying in bed wide awake. And then it's going to start that cycle again that we talked about. You're going to wonder, why am I not sleeping? Let me try my eye mask. Let me lower the temperature in the room. Maybe it's too hot, whatever it is. So go to bed once you're feeling sleepy. And the key, though, is waking up at the same time every day, even on the weekends. And I know it sounds hard and I know it sounds crazy, but when you set your wake up time properly, this sets your what's called circadian rhythm. Okay. And the circadian rhythm is essentially when the body wants to sleep and when it wants to be awake. And it follows a 24-hour cycle. And if you want to sleep, 7 to 8 hours, then you want to be waking up at the same time every day so that you can start that clock, start that cycle, so that when it comes around to the time when you want to be going to bed, which is going to be, 16 hours later, your sleep drive will be at its highest, okay? Because every hour you're awake, your body is accumulating something called adenosine, and the more of that you have, the more sleepy you will feel. Okay, so if you wake up every day at the same time, that's going to give you the best chance of having that maximum level of adenosine in the brain at the time that you want to be going to bed, which is going to lead to you feeling sleepy at the right time and having a much easier time of sleeping through the night. And then you repeat that process over and over again. And eventually your circadian rhythm gets set in a way that you want so that now you're having energy when you want and feeling sleepy when you want. So that's the first thing. That's sleep structure. And there's a few things you can do that can interrupt this process as well. For example, if you take a lot of long naps in the middle of the day, that's going to reset the adenosine. It's going to flush it out. And that means you're not going to be sleepy till later in the night, which is okay as long as you understand that. But even if that does happen, you still want to be waking up at the same time. But the best thing to do is to just keep your naps to under 20 minutes, and ideally only one per day if you can swing that. Again, this is not medical advice in any way. This is just my opinion. This is just how I coach my students. The second thing blends with the first, and that's to have your sleep drive be at a maximum. And what I mean by sleep drive is, again, how much of that adenosine you have before you go to bed and how sleepy you feel before you go to bed. And you'll know your sleep drive is at its peak when you have those heavy eyelids, like I said before. And the third thing is to reduce that hyperarousal and remove the fear around sleep and not sleeping. And this can be done in a variety of ways. I'm going to make a bunch of videos about this, but if you can master these three things, proper sleep structure, sticking to it, making sure that you have enough sleep drive before you try and go to bed, and handling the hyperarousal, which comes back to the subject of this video, might mean that you need to give up some of this sleep hygiene stuff, or just at least realize that it's not the ultimate solution to sleep. It's only something that's supposed to help, and it's not to be relied upon. Understanding all those things, you're going to have the best possible chance of recovering your sleep to where it is, to where you want it to be, which is, I'm assuming, where you go to sleep when you feel tired, you sleep through the entire night, you wake up at the time you want to wake up, you don't have any disturbances, you sleep through the night, and wake up feeling like a spring chicken, like somebody told me not too long ago on a call. They wanted to wake up feeling like a spring chicken, and I thought that was genius. So those are your three things to focus on. And if you want to learn more about those things, they'll be in videos on my channel going forward. So keep an eye out for those. Now, one of my favorite movies is The Matrix. And there's this quote from Morpheus. And it happens, if you like the movie, you know the movie, it's the scene where Neo is, they're on the rooftops. And Morpheus is showing Neo how he can jump across the rooftops if he would just let go, right? And he tells him, you have to let it all go, Neo. Fear, doubt, and disbelief. And then Morpheus jumps across, and it's amazing, right? And with sleep, it's the same thing. You got to let go of the fear and the doubt and the disbelief that you cannot improve your sleep, because a lot of folks that I speak with, they get to the point where they've been sleeping poorly for so long that they start to believe they may never be able to sleep normally again. And my job is to show you that that is not true, that as long as you're alive, you still have the ability to sleep just how good as you want. It's a question of, are you willing to take action and learn what you need to learn and maybe change the way you've been doing things? Because one of my other favorite quotes is, if you want things in your life to change, you have to change things in your life. You can't continue to do things the way that you've always done them, because you're just going to keep getting the same results. So with sleep, the key is, again, letting go of the fear and the anxiety and replacing it with confidence that you can sleep however well you want and that there are solutions to your issues. And I hope that on this channel, I'm bringing you the solutions that you need, because as someone here staying with me this long, you're obviously committed, and I just want to provide you with the most value that I possibly can outside of fully working with you one-on-one. So now let's recap what we covered in this video. Number one is that sleep hygiene is not all that it's cracked up to be. It may work for some people that have minor sleep disturbances, but when you have long-term sleep issues and long ongoing insomnia problems, it's often not enough. And in fact, as we talked about, it can make things worse because of the performance anxiety that it creates. Secondly, we talked about how business owners specifically make sleep improvement like a performance, right? Something to be achieved and something to be efforted at with lots of different techniques and solutions. And if it's not working, you try harder and harder, right? But unfortunately, all that effort and that searching for the perfect solution and trying all these different things creates a cycle of problems that is self-perpetuating. And we have to break that cycle by looking at things differently. Third is the concept of hyperarousal, which is something that happens in our brain when we are feeling anxious, when we're feeling worried, upset, angry, when we're having racing thoughts, when we're thinking about life, thinking about death, thinking about all these things that come up in the middle of the night. All these things can trigger that hyperarousal in the brain, which puts us in a very alert and focused state where sleep is very difficult to achieve because our body is now scanning the environment for threats. Your body thinks there might be a tiger in the room. It's not going to let you sleep. It wants to keep you alive. Our brain's number one priority is keeping us alive, regardless of how well we're sleeping. And then fourth, we talked about how problem solving can become a problem in itself And unfortunately for business owners, that's what we specialize in, is problem solving. But with sleep, overly trying to solve the problem and even considering it a problem is the problem, right? So we got to let go of that. We have to look at things differently, and we have to look at the foundation of where sleep comes from. It comes from our body's own natural processes, and we have to work with those processes rather than against them.